In 1966, Australian farmer George Pedley was working his land at Tully, Queensland, when he heard a strange buzzing sound. He went to investigate, and the sound led him to a nearby swamp, where he saw a circular object slowly ascend before vanishing into the sky. The spot where the object had risen was marked by a strange formation, a 30-foot wide, 2-foot thick circle of flattened reeds arranged in a clockwise swirl. He thought to himself, did he just witness an alien spacecraft take off from a field of wheat? But why here? What's so special about this wheat field? He soon realized this craft just made a crop circle. Since the 1960s, thousands of crop formation or crop circles have appeared worldwide, with England's Wiltshire leading the count. From simple circles to complex pictograms, these patterns emerge rapidly, often at night, accompanied by strange lights. They share uncanny similarities, including mathematical precision evident in fractal-like design, based on formulas like the Mandelbrot set. Math is considered a universal language, so these formations have fueled speculation about their origin. Could there be contact attempts by extraterrestrials? While crop formation may seem like a recent phenomenon, evidence suggests they have been appearing for centuries. In the 9th century, Abigard, the Bishop of Lyon in France, wrote about parishioners possibly engaging in devil worship or paganism. These individuals collected seeds from flattened circles and fields and used them for fertility rituals. In 1686, Robert Plot, an Oxford professor, documented crop formation and drew pictures of those near his home. He claimed they were formed by a flash of light and noted that animals avoided these areas. Around the same time, a pamphlet titled The Mowing Devil was released. It described a farmer waking up to a bright light in his field, which he initially thought was a fire. Upon investigating, he found the crop circle so precisely mowed that he believed it could not have been made by a human. John Leland, who served as librarian to Henry VIII, also wrote about patterns appearing in grass overnight. In this century, in 1937, a British science journal reported circles found in barley field and included one of the first photographs of a crop circle. In 1945, a balloonist working for the Royal Air Force Parachute Training School took a photograph of the crop circle. In 1952, the U.S. Air Force investigated circles found in Kansas. In 1963, astronomer Sir Patrick Moore, writing for the New Scientist journal, examined the formation in Charlton's wheat fields.
Wheat fields were features taking the form of circular or elliptical areas in which the wheat had been flattened. One very well defined was an oval, 15 yards long by 4.5 broad. There was evidence of spiral flattening, and in one case there was a circular area in the center in which the wheat had not been flattened.
Despite the thousands of crop circles being discovered and numerous claims of people witnessing their formation, no one had captured one on camera. That was until 1996. John Whaley was camping on a hill in Wiltshire, called Oliver Castle, named after an old folk. Around 3 a.m., he noticed something unusual and grabbed his video camera, capturing footage of several glowing orbs hovering over a field. Then, like magic, a formation appeared. Here's the aerial view of the formation. The meaning of crop circles remain a mystery, with most people believing they convey messages, a point of frustration for many researchers. But some people would still wonder, why would whoever is making these crop circles send us messages? What do they want? Well, they are in fact lies. In 1974, the Arecibo message was sent from Earth to a star cluster in the Hercules constellation. The message, transmitted using the Arecibo radio telescope, was named after this instrument. The team behind its creation was led by Dr. Fran Drake, with assistance from Carl Sagan. The message consisted of 1679 binary digits that could be converted into an image, designed to convey information about Earth's civilization. It begins with a representation of the numbers 1 through 10, serving as a key to understand the rest of the message. It then displays the atomic numbers of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus, the elements that make up our DNA, with carbon highlighted due to its dominance in life form. The message provides details about DNA, including its double helix structure. At the bottom, there is a figure of a human, indicating the average height and the population at the time, which was a little over 4 billion. It also depicts our star system, starting with the Sun and extending out to Pluto, with the Earth shifted upwards to indicate the planet sending the message. Also, there is a graphic representing the means of communication, the Arecibo radio telescope. Since the nearest star that could potentially receive the message is 25,000 light years away, we wouldn't expect a reply for another 50,000 years. But on the morning of August 14th in 2001, a formation was discovered next to the Chapleton radio telescope. Even without knowing the full design, it was clear from the ground that it was a crop circle, due to its structure and uniformity. This new formation was different. It was asymmetrical and appeared chaotic. It wasn't until it was viewed from the air that it made sense. 3 days later, another formation appeared, which became known as the Arecibo answer. This formation used the same 23 by 73 grid as the original Arecibo message. The top line displayed the numbers 1 through 10, but the reply indicated silicon as the main element for life instead of carbon. The DNA was depicted with a third strand. In the center was a humanoid figure about 4 feet tall, with a large head, and their population was around 21 billion. Below this figure was their solar system, showing that they inhabit 3 objects, the third and fourth planets, and another shape that could be a planet or another object or structure. The original Arecibo message included an image of the radio telescope used to send it, and the reply seemed to acknowledge this. What does this design represent? A year earlier, a similar formation appeared in the same place. Is this the same object? Is this a crop formation representation of a machine used to communicate through space? Researchers and skeptics are puzzled and frustrated by the lack of straightforward communication. Why not just use English? Nearly a year later, another formation appeared, forming a face that was clearly not human. Like the Arecibo message, this disk formation contained binary code. For the first time, an actual literal message was translated using ASCII, the encoding standard for electronic communication. The message said, "Beware the bearers of false gift. We oppose deception. Conduit closed." It seems that whoever is trying to communicate with us is warning us. But from whom? In 2004, while deer hunting a few miles outside Roswell, New Mexico, Robert Reed discovered an unusual rock partially buried in dirt. Of course, the Roswell incidents need a standalone video, which we will cover in a future episode. Initially, Robert thought it was just an interesting rock someone had lost, but he didn't keep that to himself. He showed it to friends and anyone interested. Soon, unusual findings emerged. For one, it was identified as magnetized stone, a type of rock that's not native to the area. Under a microscope, the Roswell rock appeared extremely smooth, with no visible carving marks or signs of sandblasting. The most intriguing discovery was that in 1996, 8 years before the Roswell rock was found, a crop formation with matching designs had appeared. A crop circle discovered in Chiseldon, England, on August 2, 1996, had an almost identical symbol, suggesting that someone is trying to communicate with us. This idea supports the theory that some crop circles might be messages from extraterrestrial origins. Many crop circle researchers embrace this idea, pointing to the advanced astronomical, scientific, and mathematical equations found within these formations. This example demonstrates the use of geometry as a code for representing digits and numbers, highlighting the mathematical knowledge and geometric skill involved in creating these crop circles. Some believe the design is a message, others think it's a map, while some argue that the rock found in Roswell, the Arecibo answer, and all crop circles are just simply an elaborate hoax. But who would suggest create such detailed hoax and why? The answer came in 1991. when a British newspaper published a front page story with the headline, "The Men Who Conned the World." On September 9th, 1991, two retirees in their 60s confessed to starting the crop circle phenomenon in 1978. Doug Bauer claimed the idea came to him one night in a pub, living in Queensland in 1966. He remembered the Tully UFO incident that left behind a crop circle of reeds. Inspired by the incident, Doug thought it would be fun to trick people into believing UFO were landing in southern England, in their wheat fields. He enlisted the help of his friend, Dave Chorley, to create crop circles. They used a wood plank, some rope, and a twisted piece of wire. Initially, their designs were simple and crude, but over time they became more complex. The story spread through international media, seemingly solving the mystery of crop circles. They were, after all, just a prank by two animal old men. While Doug and Dave might have created some crop circles, their story has many inconsistencies. When they demonstrated their technique, the results were junky and lacked precision compared to most crop formations. Even back then, Doug and David's creation were always misaligned, and the more complex the design, the worse their formation appeared. During one demonstration for a news crew, Doug tried to reproduce one of their circles, but ended up making twice as large as intended before giving up. Their story also changed over time. They claim to have started making circles in 1976, then 1975, and finally 1978. They never could agree on the exact year they began. They claim to have created certain crop circles, then later say they didn't, but help others who did. For instance, Doug and Dave claim to have made the famous cheesefoot hit circle in 1983. Doug even showed a diagram of it, but his diagram included footpaths that the actual circle did not have. The real circle had no tracks or disturbances. When asked how they created the circle without leaving tracks, Doug claimed they pole vaulted into the field. The story goes that these two men, in their 60s, pole vaulted fields with their wooden boards, laid down a perfect crop formation, and then pole vaulted it again. Doug appeared not reasonably fit for his age, but he was visibly winded from walking in a circle, making the pole vaulted claim seem implausible. They also embellished their story as other crop circles were discovered. For instance, when investigators mentioned finding a jelly-like substance in a formation, Doug suggested it was a waste from a plane. He added a story about being hit on the head by a frozen waste ejected from a plane while making a crop circle, even though planes don't dump waste in that area as it would be illegal, dangerous, and disgusting. When people found bits of metal thought to be meteorites at crop formations, Doug and Dave's circles soon included scattered bits of iron. So did Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley create some crop circles? Yes. When they came forward, about 1,500 crop circles had been reported in the last 23 countries. Their action inspired many copycats, and soon most crop formation were man-made. But is there a scientific way to determine if crop circles is genuine and not hoax? Yes, there is. Most crop formations are man-made, and there are distinct signs that reveal this. Identifying a man-made crop circles can be as simple as spotting a footpath leading to the design. Sometimes crop formations intersect with tractor lines, known as tram lines, which can obscure tracks. To distinguish a hoax, examine the plants themselves. Man-made crop circles created by planting plants with boards cause significant damage. You'll see cracks and bruises on the stalks, and the crushed plants will appear messy. Leaves and flowers will be mashed into the ground, with visible marks on only one side, where the plant pressed down. Many of these marks are creases where the stalk can be bent. Genuine crop circles do not display these signs. In authentic crop circles, the pattern flows smoothly and elegantly, often with stacks layered and even braided. Most plants in genuine crop circles are not damaged. They continue to grow horizontally and then revert to their vertical position after a few days. For instance, a formation found in May 2005 had flowers that remained undamaged and were gently laid down. Such precision is beyond the capability of a group of clumsy men with wooden boards. This was confirmed when a group of crop circles makers attempted to reproduce the formation. From the air, their version looked decent, but on the ground it was a mess with the plants severely damaged. A formation from 2003 was particularly puzzling. In parts of the design, the plants were not completely flattened, but bent a few inches from the top, resembling grooves on a record. This effect cannot be achieved with planks or ropes. Another indicator of genuine crop circles, especially in wheat fields during late summer when the wheat turns golden, is that the kernels become heavy and bend over from their weight. They also become stiff and cannot be straightened. However, within the crop circles, the wheat kernels remain upright and cannot be bent, suggesting the influence of radiation. Wheat stacks are divided by structure known as apical rolls. Similar to the knuckles in your fingers, in the 1990s, biophysicist William Livingood began studying plants from crop circles. His team discovered that the nodes in wheat from crop circles were elongated and often ruptured, a phenomenon known as expulsion cavity. This type of rupture can only be replicated using bursts of microwave radiation. Just like a microwave oven heats water, fats, and sugars in food, microwave energy heats the water in the wheat stack nodes. This steam buildup causes the nodes to burst, similar to how popcorn pops. This internal damage cannot be faked or mimicked manually. Witnesses who claim to have seen crop circles being formed often report observing a mist over the pattern immediately afterwards. This mist is actually steam from the plants, which were rapidly heated by microwave radiation. Livingood's experiment showed that seeds from crop circles experience significant growth compared to seeds from outside the circles. Seeds exposed to short, controlled bursts of radiation grew larger and faster. But wouldn't any kind of radiation affect the crops? It certainly would. The wheat harvested from within these crop circles was found to have a higher protein content than the wheat from outside the formation, and staying inside these crop circles could possibly cure cancer. Some crop formations are coated with tiny spheres of magnetized iron, often meteorite iron, which researchers refer to as magnetic glaze. These spheres are typically found along the edges of a formation and are arranged in a linear pattern, rather than randomly. The presence of these magnetized spherical iron particles suggests that they were melted and formed within a highly energetic magnetic field. People inside crop formations frequently reported being affected by electromagnetic radiation.
Guri malla, det blir helt sånn. Og nå blir det borte. Nå blir det borte. Da blir det vanlig. Nå blir det vanlig igjen.
Ja, visst.
In an experiment, a woman with an enlarged thyroid spent 2.5 hours in a crop formation while being monitored by a doctor, and her thyroid shrank by 40%. Electronic devices like cameras and watches often malfunction within these crop circles. Pregnant women and individuals with pacemakers are advised to avoid them. Skeptics might dismiss these claims as pseudoscience, but the tangible effects on plants and individuals are documented. The elongated nodes and altered growth rate in wheat could be a coincidence, and people's physical reactions might be pseudosomatic. Skeptics, how do you account for this? The appearance of ghost formation or ghost circles. These are patterns that remain visible in the field even after it has been plowed, sometimes persisting for a season or even up to 2 years. Not all crop formations exhibit these characteristics, and the reason remain unclear. However, a study from early 2000 on crop circles in southern England revealed that 98% of non-man-made formations were located over chalk aquifers, which can also be used to generate electricity. This suggests the connection to electromagnetism. Located in southern England is considered a central site for crop formations. Built thousands of years ago, it stands 129 feet tall and covers approximately 5 acres. Its original purpose remains debated, but crop formation regularly appear near or around it. The entire structure is made of chalk, and Stonehenge, located nearby, also features crop circles. One of the most notable formations known as Stonehenge Surprise appeared on July 7, 1996, just a short distance from Stonehenge. This formation, renowned for its complexity and beauty, is a geodesic, a type of fractals. Fractals are mathematical patterns that repeat at different scales, remaining constant whether you zoom in or out. Consider how close this crop formation to the Stonehenge and its visibility from the side. Despite Stonehenge's 24 hours security, the guards reported no unusual activity the night before the formation appeared. Similar crop formation also appear near Aberbury, which is even larger than Stonehenge. Ley lines are thought to be invisible pathways or energy lines connecting circuit sites and creating an energy network across Earth, aligning with cosmic forces. The area around Stonehenge lies on one of these lines. If crop formations are indeed a form of communication, they are likely using a mathematical complex, as a math is a universal language. But what do these messages signify? Do they suggest space travel or offer an explanation for it? Are they maps or blueprints for a machine? The answer to all these questions might well be yes. There is a consistent amount of sacred geometry, tetrahedrons, cubes, octahedrons, and even more complex geometric patterns embedded in these crop circles. Many top scientists now say that this geometry holds the secret key to higher dimension, and it's right there in the crops. It is as if they are giving us a trail of breadcrumbs, showing us how to advance to the next level as a planet. Imagine an advanced extraterrestrial race, dispatching orbs of light as exploratory peepholes. They arrive on a planet, discover something intriguing, and these peepholes open into portals. Through them, advanced visitors can pass, or even a human might journey to the orb's home planet. The idea of a wormhole-themed crop circle suggests that they serve as both a method of communication and a means of travel for these advanced visitors. Another intriguing possibility, alien time travelers. Perhaps they use these crop formation as to assess the accuracy of their temporal journeys. So are crop circles designed for humans at all? The crop circles are made in a way that you'd only read from above. If we didn't have any aerial vehicles or satellite imagery, we wouldn't be able to read them, let alone understand them. But that's not the case for any advanced extraterrestrials with the ability to levitate with vehicles or otherwise. But what if they are not messages? What if they're just space-time markers, like clock arms? So hear me out. Imagine you are an alien time traveler. You look different than the race of beings on the planet. You have a watch on your wrist, but according to Einstein's theory of general relativity, your watch showing the time and date of your original timeline, and not of your current place in space. You need to know the date and inform your fellow time travelers of the time, without compromising your identity. So you would need to write something that only you and your fellow travelers would be able to read easily and understand. More like an insignia or a message we would write on a school toilet walls. Makes much more sense now, doesn't it? Maybe a time traveler marker is just far-fetched, but over the years, crop formations have become increasingly complex. What began as simple circles evolved into intricate patterns, like the famous Milky Way galaxy spiral discovered in 2001. This formation consists of 409 perfect circles, spanning 1,000 feet across, and covering 700,000 square feet. This formation poses a significant challenge for skeptics. Considering England's northern latitude, summer days are very long, leaving only about 4 hours of darkness the night the spiral appeared. Creating such an elaborate pattern in such a short time would require a large crew. Also, it was raining that night, which would likely result in a field full of muddy footprints from the numerous hoaxers needed to create the design. Still, the Milky Way spiral remained pristine with no signs of footprints. Fractals are a common theme in crop formations. Geometric shapes and other expression of mathematical functions are also quite prevalent. Some formations even depict complex math problems. One such problem, squaring the circle, originated in Greek mathematics and involved using a compass and ruler to create a square and a circle with the same area. This task is impossible, since calculating a circle area requires pi, an irrational number that cannot be exact, and thus achieving equal areas for a circle and a square is technically impossible. Methods to approximate this have appeared in crop formations for years, often using mathematical concepts like the golden ratio and Fibonacci numbers. One particularly perplexing formation turned out to be a representation of pi to 10 decimal places, with the length of the arc indicating each decade even including decimal points, suggesting the number's infinite continuation. However, not all designs are perfect geometric representations. This led some researchers to consider alternative interpretations, such as thematic patterns, which are shaped forms when sound waves vibrate materials like water or sand. Ernst Chalde, a German physicist and musician, documented silent patterns demonstrating that different sound frequencies create specific predictable patterns. Could the creator of this crop circle be suggesting that a particular sound frequency holds special significance? If so, how one might be applied this knowledge? Let's look deeper. In 2011, a double spiral formation appeared on Windmill Hill, an ancient site. On the same day, another double spiral emerged near Stonehenge, just a few miles away. Dr. Jerry Crow suggested that this formation could symbolize neutron stars. On rare occasions, neutron stars can collide and form a magnetar. What sets magnetars apart is their incredibly strong magnetic fields, which are among the most powerful known in the universe, thousands to billions of times stronger than those of regular neutron stars. A magnetar's gravity is so intense that it significantly distorts space-time around it. Theoretically, this wrapping of space-time could create an Einstein-Rosen ridge, commonly known as a wormhole. A wormhole, again in theory, can connect two distant points in space, essentially creating a shortcut that allows faster than light travel. I know there is a lot of theory and possibility, and maybe when discussing these crop formations. Magnetars are so rare that only 10 have been discovered in our galaxy. Make that 11, because the day after these crop formations appeared, a new magnetar was detected. And I don't mean it was there all along and just discovered it. I mean it wasn't there one day and appeared in the next. In 2022, a crop formations appeared featuring two sections of concentric rings connected by a line. Some theorize that this represents a wormhole, depicting 2 points in space surrounded by wrapped spacetime, with the connecting line symbolizing the portal created by bending spacetime. While it's possible this formation is simply an artistic design without deeper meaning, that would be unusual, as most crop formations should convey a message or a purpose. Assuming these messages are puzzle pieces, fitting them together might reveal proof of a wormhole and map to it. But how? That's the question electrical engineer Nikola Romansky pondered. He noticed a crop circle that appeared meaningless, lacking recognizable geometry or symmetry. Inspired, he imported the shape into his 3D software and extruded it around its central axis, effectively spinning it from a 3D shape. He repeated this process with other crop formations, created 3D models by rotating these designs around the central axis. Over time, he amassed a collection of what looked like blueprints or instructions for constructing some kind of machine. And what did he do next? He built it. Nikola Romansky reached out to filmmaker Charles Maxwell for assistance. Maxwell was working on a documentary about crop circles, and Nikola needed help and funding to build his machine. He believed this machine, powered by zero-point energy, could alter gravity and achieve light speed. They brought in 3D designers, machinists, electricians, and fabricators. After over 3 years of work, they finally had their prototype, but it didn't work. They managed to ignite some plasma, but eventually ran out of money. The entire process is documented in the film. While their project ultimately failed, it's possible that Nikola was into something. The secret to zero-point energy is gravity, and space-time might all come down to one thing: spin. Whenever government whistleblowers describe reverse engineering UFOs, spin is always a core component of technology. Mark McCandlish, a former airspace designer, claimed that UFOs achieve anti-gravity and propulsion by rotating liquid mercury. The infamous Nazi pill-shaped UFO dialogue was said to utilize similar technology. Bob Lazar mentioned studying element 115 during his time at Area 51, stating it powers alien spacecraft. Although Lazar's claims in the 1980s were initially dismissed because element 115 didn't exist then, it was discovered until 2003. Just a few weeks prior, another whistleblower who claims to have been a military contractor working on reverse engineering UFO stated that these engines use counter-rotating cylinders powered by element 115. Russian physicist Nikolai Kozyrev believed that the twisting and spinning of space-time, known as torsion, held the key to unlocking gravity and potentially everything else. In 2019, an engineer working for the US Navy filed a patent for a plasma convergent fusion device, a machine capable of generating a tremendous amount of power, like terawatts in compact size, about the size of a car. This device could output much energy as a nuclear plant. If it's real, the energy would be produced would be clean and unlimited. The scientist behind this invention is Salvatore Pais, who now works for the US Space Force. Pais has filed several intriguing patents on behalf of the US government, including propulsion engines, room temperature superconductors, inertial mass reduction devices, and high-frequency gravitational wave generators. While this might sound like science fiction, the US military is taking these patents very seriously. Notably, each of these inventions is based on the principle of spin. It's perhaps ironic or poetic justice that some of nature's most mysterious secrets, like gravity, might be not uncovered in a lab, but rather in a field of wheat. Crop circles are a controversial topic, and the history of crop circle community, if you can call it that, is filled with intrigue, lies, and double crosses. Mention of crop circles in any mainstream setting today, and you're likely to get eyes rolls and laughter. But it wasn't always this way. There was a time when crop formations were taken seriously by the media, the government, and the general public. This interest led to an emergence of a new field of study called serology, named after the Ceres, the goddess of agriculture and grain crops. Journals were created, and articles about crop formations were mainstream. Nick Pope, who spent over 20 years investigating UFOs for the British Ministry of Defense, noted that the army began investigating crop circles in 1985. By 1989, glyphs started to appear in southern England, and crop formations were becoming increasingly complex, suggesting an intelligence at work. This phenomenon caught the attention of Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, who asked her cabinet to find out what was happening. This led to the launch of Operation Blackbird. Operation Blackbird was a 3-week surveillance effort aimed at capturing the formation of crop circles in real time. The project was spearheaded by prominent crop circle researchers, Colin Andrews and Bert Delgado, and was sponsored by both the BBC and the Japanese national television, with the backing of the British government. The operation was conducted on land owned by the Ministry of Defense, allowing acres of farmland to be cordoned off to keep hoaxers and prevent genuine crop circles from being trampled on. The military had the field thoroughly monitored, with cameras including night vision and infrared to detect body heat. If a crop circle were to form, it would be undoubtedly captured. This was a major event, watched by millions worldwide, with Colin Andrews appearing on TV daily to report on the progress. On the second day, a crop circle appeared, and Andrews excitedly announced the discovery on television. However, the enthusiasm was short-lived, and it was soon revealed to be an embarrassing hoax. The design was crude, and an astrology board game was placed at the center of the circle. Colin Andrews, a serious investigator and a prominent figure in the crop circle community, was left humiliated. Given that the army had the entire area sealed off and covered with cameras, it's strange they didn't capture anything. It seems like a setup. Colin Andrews believes, and there's plenty of evidence to back his story, that the military deliberately aimed to discredit him and the whole crop circle phenomenon. But that doesn't mean the military was dismissive of crop formations. Quite the opposite. At the same time as the highly publicized Operation Blackbird, the army was running a secret surveillance operation a few miles away at Sudbury Hill. They even recorded bright orbs flying over fields south of Hill. This covert operation only became known later, suggesting Blackbird was a distraction, a way to draw public focus while the real action happened elsewhere. To this day, when crop circles or glowing orbs appear, military helicopters often show up, patrolling and even chasing the orbs around. Clearly, the military takes the crop formation seriously. After the Blackbird fiasco, the public narrative changed. Crop circles were debunked, and Colin Andrews became a laughingstock. His partner Bat Delegado, so disillusioned by the Blackbird hoax, retired and abandoned his research. But that's not the end of the story. Despite being pushed to the fringe, Andrews remained a dedicated investigator, and crop circles continued to intrigue a loyal group of believers. The government, keen on keeping crop circles out of the mainstream, launched a disinformation campaign to spread misleading information with the help of none other than the CIA. In his 1999 book Cosmic Top Secret: The Unseen Agenda, author John King interviewed Colin Andrews. Andrews was convinced that the only way hoaxers could have access to the field during Operation Blackbird would have been an inside job. When Andrews announced that the crop circle had appeared, he hadn't been seen it himself. It was a pitch black. He was under pressure to make the announcement, so he did, relaying information based on what the army described, not on his own observations. When daylight came, Andrews immediately recognized the formation as a hoax, but he was stuck at dealing with the military. They provided the personnel, equipment, and land, but Andrews had to cooperate with them. According to Andrews, the first phase of this information campaign was to discredit crop circles with Operation Blackbird. The second phase involved Doug Bauer and Dave Charley, who since the first a year later, Bauer and Charley claimed to be the creators of crop circles. And this story remains the official explanation today. While Andrews doesn't believe they were intelligence agents, he suspects they were used and paid by the intelligence community. They received thousands of dollars for their story, and it's a fact that they were paid only half up front because they had to sue for the remainder. Then came phase 3. A freelance journalist named Jim Schnabel entered the fray. Colin Andrews believes Schnabel was connected to the CIA. Although Schnabel wasn't a former CIA officer, he might have been an agent. A search on his name in CIA databases reveals numerous connections to the paranormal subjects, like crop circles and remote viewing. Schnabel was interviewing everyone involved with Operation Blackbird and other crop circle researchers privately. He was sowing discord, misquoting people, and pushing the narrative that crop circles were debunked. Andrews became increasingly suspicious of Schnabel's ties to the CIA. After a chilling encounter, Schnabel had recorded and played back details of private conversation Andrews had one evening while sitting alone in his car. Andrews also had additional evidence suggesting that he was being bugged and surveilled. Colin Andrews recalled a direct encounter with a CIA operative. This man, who initially posed as a researcher studying hoaxes, claimed to have witnessed the crop circle being formed. His story helped him blend into the crop circle community, where he became a familiar face. A few weeks later, this individual visited Collins at his home. During their walk, he prepared Collins with questions about crop circles, including their locations and their nature. Collins grew increasingly irritated when the man began probing about potential Russian involvement. At the end of their conversation, the man made a surprising offer. "You are one of us now." He revealed that a substantial sum of money awaited Collins in a Swiss bank account, contingent of publicly declaring crop circles as a hoax. Collins could continue his research and receive support to become the leading crop circle expert, including special equipment, a staff, and a budget. However, if he encountered a genuine crop formation, he was instructed to contact this man alone. Collins rejected the offer, but the harassment persisted with threatening phone calls. Eventually, Collins reached out to the British Ministry of Defense, only to be told there was nothing that they could do. Eventually, Colin Andrews relocated to the US, where he encountered a Pentagon analyst who introduced him to a writer named Rosemary Allen Gilley. Her name might ring a bell if you are familiar with Coast to Coast Radio, where she made numerous appearances. Gilley authored 49 books and hosted her own radio show dedicated to the paranormal. According to Colin, Rosemary went to great lengths to persuade him to co-author a book with her, insisting on working in his office to gain access to his extensive crop circles database, spanning 3 decades. Despite her persistence, Colin declined her offer. He is convinced that Rosemary Gilley was a CIA asset, given her prominent role in Coast to Coast. where she reached millions of listeners. She was an ideal candidate for such a role. She could continue her work freely, but occasionally tasked with disseminating information from the intelligence community. This kind of arrangement is more common than one might think. Rosemary Gilly passed away in 2019 at the age of 69, and there is yet another intriguing figure in the crop circle saga. John Lodenberg, an English artist and documentary filmmaker, established the website circlemakers.org. In the early 90s, Lodenberg claims responsibility for some of intricate and impressive crop formation discovered over the years. The Circle Makers website, still active by the way, features numerous crop formations that the group takes credit for. It's clear that Circle Makers have produced elaborate and often striking crop designs. However, crop circle researchers Robert Hulse and David A. Catton suspect there is more to Landberg and his group than meets the eye. They believe that the Circle Makers website and Lodenberg's activity might be a part of this information campaign, potentially funded by the government. At one point, the Circle Makers website even had a recruitment link that led directly to MI5, British military intelligence. Hulse believes that Circle Makers are financed by the British intelligence and were specifically established to disseminate misleading information. Hulse is sure that Circle Makers' objective is to confuse serious researchers and make it as challenging as possible to distinguish genuine formations from hoaxes. While there is no concrete evidence linking the Circle Makers of Lodenberg to the military intelligence, researcher Richard D. Hall uncovered intriguing details about Lodenberg in 2009. Lodenberg completed his master's degree at Slade School of Fine Art in London in 1992. At that time, Slade was located right next door to the secret MI5 headquarters at 40 Gower Street, with the two buildings sharing a courtyard. Hulse points out that intelligence agencies have a history of recruiting final-year college students, a practice that continues today. Lodenberg began creating crop circles shortly after his graduation. Hulse also highlights that if you examine the HTML source of circlemakers.org, you'll find MI5 listed as the second keyword. This was noted back in 2009, but even now, the site keywords include MI5 and CIA. If you find this weird, listen to this. Remember George Pedley, who's allegedly connected to the CIA? He's also listed on the site. In 2004, Circle Makers website taunted Colin Andrews, who was then seeking funds for his research. They joked that if his fundraising effort fell short, he could always join MI5 Psychological Operation PsyCops and return as a crop circle creator. Ops, short for Psychological Operations, involves employing psychological techniques and tactics to shape the perceptions, attitudes, and behaviors of groups. This kind of strategic communication is frequently used by military intelligence and government agencies. Hulse conducted a land registry check on the apartment where Lodenberg was residing at the time and discovered something odd. The deed listed no apartments at all. Further investigating revealed that Lodenberg apartments, along with 3 others, had their rents covered by the local government. So did Richard Hall uncover that John Lodenberg is actually a media asset tasked with spreading disinformation about crop circles? The evidence Hall presents is largely circumstantial and making it impossible to draw definite conclusions. For a few years after Hall's research, Lodenberg directed a documentary titled Mirage Man. This film profiles Richard Doty, a former special agent with the United States Air Force Office of Special Investigation, OSI. According to Mirage Man, Doty was a key figure in the military efforts to spread disinformation within the UFI community, aiming to confuse researchers and blur the line between genuine sightings and hoaxes, more like a biography by Lodenberg if you have been following the story so far. According to Hulse, Caton and many others, this is precisely what circle makers have been doing to the crop circle community for years. John Lodenberg, along with Rosemary Gilly, James Schnabel, and numerous other writers, journalists, and media figures would make ideal intelligent assets. They are already established within the paranormal community and trusted by its members. While they continue their work, they occasionally inject bits of disinformation, subtly guiding people away from the truth. This is why you should be cautious about trusting anyone in the media, whether they are your favorite news anchor, TV show host, podcaster, blogger, or writer. Be skeptical of those with influence. While they may appear trustworthy and have your best interest at heart, part of their persona may be a performance designed to sway your opinion, or even alter your entire belief system. The intelligence community does not want you to know the truth about crop circles, UFO, secret space programs, or alien technology. That's a fact. Millions, possibly billions of dollars are invested in black budget programs aimed at distracting and confusing you from the truth. When the CIA needs to spread disinformation, they seek out credible individuals with large audiences to deliver their message. So stay vigilant and watch for signs. An intelligent operative, agent, or asset could be anyone. Thank you for watching. I know this episode have been long, because the story ran deep the more I looked. If you are still watching, I think we have earned your like. So share the video to your friends and let me know what you think about the story down below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. This is Jeff, and this has been another episode of Mysteries Unravel. See you in the next one.